What's happening YouTube? Today's match is gonna be JRL Clipper versus BABYLISS Clipper. It's the first time I do a type of content like this, and it's the first time I'm putting out a tutorial for a burst fade ever on YouTube. So it's interesting to see how these two clippers that can compete to each other's and what's the main differences that I felt between the two, and principally which one I rather work with. A mohawk with a burst fade is, I guess, the best haircut I can try those clippers with, because each side will be completely disconnected from the other. There's not going to be any point in common, so the whole fade will be done with one clipper, and obviously the trimmer of JRL, and the other side only with BABYLISS clipper and trimmer. The only tool I didn't have is the JRL shaver, which I don't even know if they produce, by the way. Sorry about my ignorance, I'm just gonna be honest about this. And I didn't have it, so I just used my shaver from BABYLISS, but I think it's quite irrelevant in the fading technique. The shaver is good. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate a good shaver. I mean, when it's smoother, it's better for the client's skin and it's safer for the overall haircut, but I don't think it will make necessarily a big difference in our fade. So just to recap what we just done, I started my fade with a 1.5 open, and straight after I prepared my initial guideline, which I called the dark line. I went and passed my trimmer with my blade going out, so with a little flick, and I settled my fade on a 2-finger width. And now I am shaving the underneath area of my trimmer, and here we are with our middle ground guideline, which is done with our JRL clipper open. I would say a 0.5 sides on the middle guideline. Now I just started with a 1.5, or better saying a 1 open, cleaning up the guideline I created with the midline, so our line with the guard open, and I'm gonna close it eventually just to make it a bit smoother. I'm gonna work the whole fade, both sides of the fade, in the same way, and I'm gonna try to spend the same amount of time on each fade just to try to make it as even as possible. There's only one thing that I have to mention, is that it's my first time working with JRL, so I never touched those clipper ever before, and so my execution could be a little bit less efficient on the JRL side, just because again it's the first time I'm using it, which it shouldn't determine that the good result of our fade at the end, but it might do. So I just want to say first this, because I did find it slightly more difficult by being used with BABYLISS to fade using JRL. I'm not saying JRL is any less of good than BABYLISS, but I definitely felt the struggle a little bit more just because I'm not used to the way JRL cuts. I can definitely feel a bit of a difference between the two blades, even because one is a fade blade and one is a taper blade, so one blade is flat and one is striped, and that will definitely make a huge difference in my execution, and I can feel the difference in the cutting. One thing I can tell you that I enjoyed about JRL is the lightness of the clipper compared to BABYLISS, and the size is much smaller. And another cool thing is the screen feature that has on the body that tells you how many minutes or hours we got left for our clipper work. So let's say if the clipper is nearly gone, you're gonna have 30 minutes written, and the minutes will drop gradually by time passing, and it's quite efficient, quite precise, and I think for a busy barber is kind of a cool thing. Okay, now to get back, once we pass our one open and one close, I did pass the 0.5 guard of Babyliss, which I use normally in my fades. I didn't want to use the JRL guard because I felt like it would be sort of cheating to work with different guards, as I never worked with them, and guards will make the real difference, I think, on a fade. And it might be that the guards won't do exactly the same job, so I thought at least the guards, they have to be the same. I have to be used to this kind of guards. And after I descended from the dark line to our middle ground line, I put on my guardless clipper, so with a single zero, and I start cleaning up my fade ascending, so going up, blending up from 0 to our 0.5, or if to be more exact, our open lever of the clipper. And now just some finishing with my clipper. Obviously freestyle is always needed, especially because this model, Federico, got a very uneven pattern, especially towards the back of the head, where it gets much of a bumpy area near the occipital bone, and so that makes a lot of darker patches, which we're gonna need to work on with a freehand technique. Same thing with the trimmer. I like to clean up with the trimmer my fade at last, just to remove any sort of line with our zero left over, at least of our line with a zero, which shouldn't be much evident once you flick the trimmer in the beginning and you don't sign your line going in with your trimmer, but definitely is a useful technique and tip to polish the fade at the end. It does make a big difference. And last but not least, my favorite part, which it always helps me to finish up my fades, especially with JRL. I really felt the need of using this, and not because, as I said earlier, it's any less efficient of Babyliss as a clipper. It's just because it was the first time I used it, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a new thing for me, so I did find a bit more of difficulties that I expected, and so my scissors work at the end, he helped me out to clean up and polish as good as I could my fade. And now we finally start with the other side, which is my Babyliss side. I would say my favorite, not because, again, I prefer Babyliss, but in general, I've been working with Babyliss for the last year and a half, and I feel much more confident and comfortable blending and using it, especially with my guards and everything else. And I'm starting, as I said, with my 1.5 open to kind of create my final guideline. I was just checking over there if the two lines were the same, seeing that I don't have a mirror in my studio. And I want a kind of a visible line on my 1.5 open, I'm sorry, because it's a mohawk. So I want a well-defined line that crosses all around the head, around it. And so I need to leave a little bit of edge that I can always smoothen up at the end, but I want to make sure it's visible now. Again, 2-finger width of 00 with my trimmer, just to make sure it's even and the same size of the other side. I'm gonna place my finger to measure that. Now I'm gonna pass my 000 with my shaver. I'm gonna start passing the shaver down and then slightly up. The area is very little and I don't want to create any line, so there is a little flick of the wrist in the area. Now we're settling our middle ground guideline, which is done with 0.5 to be exact, not the 0.5 guard, but our clipper with the lever open. So I like to leave the darkness at the bottom for a reason, because it helps me to kind of frame our fade before I'm gonna move to the bottom. And the second reason is once I finished my fade on the top, I can go at the bottom to cancel my 0 line and I'm gonna have it there well visible. It's not gonna be something that I have to look for, and it's gonna kind of blend in with my eyesight once I finish the rest. It's gonna be there, it's gonna be nice and visible, so I'm not gonna lose our guideline. I can go and work on it at the end once I finish the darker area, the blend towards the darker area. And here again I'm working with my one guard open and close, just to polish the difference between my middle ground guideline and the dark guideline. As you can see here, I'm working with my half guard, open and close. I'm doing exactly the same job as the one guard. Obviously, I'm working in a lower position, so I'm flicking less my wrist and my clipper, and I'm just trying to cancel the guideline I created with my guardless clipper. And once done that, I'm gonna put my clipper without guards directly on the skin. First I blended a little bit the sideburn, and now with my lever close I'm going with the corner only with the corner, guys, of my clipper to remove that black line that we left in the beginning with our 0.5 and make sure that transition is smoother. And now with a freestyle technique, I'm playing around and working around our edges of our fade and all the dark spots that our model Federico has on his hair pattern. Here again, a little polish on our zero line with our trimmer that will make our blend pop. And once again, last but not least, my favorite part, the scissor work. The scissors that I'm using are the Amighetti 01, which they've been produced in Italy with my friend Diego, and they've been signed and designed by me. If you are willing to buy some, you can find a link into my description, or you can find a link on my Instagram page. I think at the moment are sold out. Maybe we got one pair left, but if not, soon we're gonna have a new production of those. And anyway, returning to our scissors, the scissors over comb technique is my favorite to polish the fades, and very often people ask me why, and the real truth is I really enjoy polishing and cutting with a very controlled tool like a scissor, which it doesn't only help me to control the area that I'm cutting, but it does help me to control as well the strokes, the strength of the stroke that I'm going to use and the direction of the cut. Another thing is going to help me to slice through without cutting whatever is before, thanks to the point of our scissor, very sharp point, that helps me to go between any type of texture and hair. And now at the last we are trying our trimmers just to make sure which one is better. Here I'm trying the JRL trimmer on the back of Federico's head, so I can make a sharp pointy V shape to finish our burst fade. And I'm gonna use the BABYLISS trimmer skeleton on the other side. I can tell you straight away that I felt a big difference between the two trimmers, not only because the BABYLISS trimmer is much more noisy, so as soon as you turn it on it kind of vibrates more and it makes such a good noise that makes you feel like you got something powerful in your hand, but there's a big difference even in the cutting way. I don't know if you can see how sharp it got, but I think the BABYLISS trimmer definitely makes everything much sharper than the JRL clipper. And as you can see here, it's doing a much cleaner job, and I would say faster. I mean, it cuts hair like butter. I've never seen such a great trimmer whatsoever, and so for me it's the top of my list. The only downsides of the BABYLISS trimmer is that often it's too sharp. Out of the box can cut people, and if you don't expect that, as I didn't, as soon as you touch it, as soon as you use it and you touch some sensitive area, you're gonna leave a sign, you're gonna leave a red line, which is fine if you are aware that a trimmer is zero gapped, but if you don't, well, just be careful, don't do mistakes, don't hurt your clients. And here we are. I dedicated circa 10 minutes, maybe slightly more, to each side. This is the JRL side and this is the BABYLISS side. As you can see, or you can go back and check better the JRL side, the fade on the other side is a little bit darker, whether with BABYLISS, since I've been using it for long, is much smoother. And I can say the battle for my personal taste is being won by BABYLISS clipper, but I definitely find JRL a very valid alternative. Thank you so much guys for watching today. I hope you liked the video. If you want to see more of this, please put a like, comment below what you want to see next and subscribe to my channel.